Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about the 2026 World Economic Forum in Davos. And the message this year was, well, pretty dramatic. The big idea wasn't that the world is changing, it's that it's actually breaking apart. We're going to unpack what this great rupture really means for global power, for trade, and for the future of tech.
We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. I mean, that's a powerful way to start, right? That's from Mark Carney, the former head of the Bank of England, and it really set the tone for the whole conference. So forget any ideas about gradual shifts or slow changes. The big takeaway from Davos is that we are witnessing a fundamental, sharp break from the global system we've all gotten used to over the last few decades.
So the main theme is this giant fracture. We're basically shifting away from a world that, for the most part, played by a shared set of rules, and we're entering a new era where it's much more about raw power dynamics. It's more confrontational, more explicit. And this really shows you what we're talking about. On one hand, you have the old way, a system based on rules, on international agreements. But the new reality? It's all about transactional deals. It's about countries forming alliances based purely on shared interest at that moment, where raw power and national advantage are what really dictate the terms.
Okay, so if you want a perfect example of this rupture in action, look no further than the recent diplomatic blow-up over Greenland. This was a crisis that really pushed the traditional transatlantic alliance right to its breaking point.
And just look at how fast this all went down. You had a threat from the US president, which was then met by a surprisingly unified and strong resistance from Europe. The markets, of course, freaked out about a potential trade war, and all that pressure forced a pretty fragile de-escalation. But even though things cooled off, the old assumptions about alliance unity were just shattered.
So yeah, the immediate crisis might have been smoothed over, but it left a permanent scar. For leaders in Europe, this was a massive wake-up call. The trust in Washington was seriously shaken, and that lit a fire under this push for what they call strategic autonomy. Basically, the ability for Europe to act on its own on the world stage, both economically and militarily.
So as these old alliances start to fracture, what happens? Well, new ones, really powerful ones, are starting to be forged. And that brings us to the next huge development that came out of Davos.
The biggest headline, really, was the news that this massive free trade agreement between the EU and India is almost a done deal. Ursula von der Leyen called it the mother of all deals, and when you see the numbers, you'll understand why. This thing has been in the works for years, and it signals a huge strategic realignment.
Just let the scale of this sink in for a second. We're not just talking about another trade agreement. This is the creation of a unified market of 2 billion people. That is a brand new economic powerhouse on the world stage.
And it's not just about population. This new economic bloc will account for nearly a quarter of the entire global economy. I mean, that fundamentally redraws the world's trade map.
You have to understand, this is so much more than a trade deal. It's a full-on strategic partnership. It includes defense cooperation, it includes digital regulations. The goal here is crystal clear. Create a powerful economic bloc that can stand up to U.S. protectionism and at the same time reduce its dependence on China.
Now, this global competition isn't just happening in trade and diplomacy. There's another huge arena opening up, the technological race. And right at the center of this new great power contest is artificial intelligence.
A really big shift in thinking at Davos was this idea that AI isn't just another app or a piece of software. It's what's called a general-purpose technology. Think about it like electricity or the printing press or the internet. It's something that doesn't just make things a little better, it fundamentally reshapes our entire economy and society.
And this quote from NVIDIA's CEO really says it all. The race for AI supremacy isn't just about writing code. He calls it the largest infrastructure build-out in human history. We're talking about building what they now call AI factories. These massive, incredibly power-hungry data centers that are the foundation of this whole new era. And this leads us to a brand new, critical concept, the electron gap. Because in the age of AI, the ultimate resource is just power, electricity. Nations that have tons of cheap, abundant power have a massive strategic advantage, and countries that don't, they risk falling way behind and basically losing control over their own technological future.
But this big AI race is also creating huge new risks. See, as AI starts connecting our digital world to our physical world, like factories and power grids, this chart shows a really dangerous imbalance. We're spending 95% of our cybersecurity money protecting corporate IT systems, emails and servers.
but only 5% goes to protecting the operational technology, the stuff that actually runs our critical infrastructure. That is a massive, gaping vulnerability. Okay, so we've covered a lot. What's the bottom line here? What are the key things you should really take away from this whole global rupture?
First, and this is a big one, this is not a temporary phase. The era of a predictable, global system based on a shared set of rules, that's over. This rupture is permanent.
Second, in this new world, diversification is the name of the game. You're going to see a lot more of these new kinds of alliances, like the EU-India deal. It's the new blueprint for a future where every country is trying to avoid being too dependent on any single power.
And finally, the race to build and control AI infrastructure is no longer just a tech story. It is now a core piece of national power and economic stability. It's going to define the strategic landscape for the rest of the century.
So, all of this leaves us with one crucial, lingering question. As the old rule book gets torn up, who's going to write the new one? The competition is officially on, and honestly, the outcome is anything but certain.